Sharon Steckman fans. Yeah! What an incredible honor, Sharon, to have your support. And for those of you who have watched Sharon lead in that space, you know full well what an incredible job she has done for our state, but also I have some really great stories, some funny ones of Sharon, so I'll save those for later. But come find me, I'll happily pass those along to her constituents. It is a real honor to be here. Thank you so much for coming today, especially on such a beautiful day. Is it true the rumors about the end of the week? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna just pretend for a little while that this is spring and the sun is out, because there's actually a lot of things to be really inspired and happy about in this moment. One of which is we're gonna flip some seats this cycle. How about that? So thank you, Sharon, for the introduction. For those of you who I have not met, my name is Lindsay James. I am an ordained Presbyterian pastor and a chaplain, and I am also a mom of 2 teenagers, which I will accept advice and prayer. That is welcome, so thank you for that. And I have served in the Iowa legislature for the last 8 years. Now, in 2016, many of us probably remember where we were the morning after that 2016 election. I was having a conversation with my then 6-year-old daughter about who our next president-elect was. And we had purchased a White House Lego leading up to the 2016 election. And my 6-year-old daughter and I were going to build that White House Lego on the morning after we had elected our first female president into the White House. Well, we all know what happened that morning. Instead of building that White House Lego with my daughter, I'm stumbling my way through a really painful, hard conversation with her. And there is something about looking in the face of a young person that brings things into sharp focus. And I knew in that moment that this is a moment in the life of our country that would require me to do more. And I began to wonder, could I take my skill set as a chaplain, bringing people together across difference for doing what's good and right and just for communities, could that skill set translate into the Iowa legislature? And in this moment where I'm staring in the face of my daughter, and I'm watching the erosion of our public schools and our healthcare systems and the political polarization and the deepening divide between those who have resources and those who do not. I'm looking in her face and seeing things so clearly, and I thought to myself, if a seat like this opens, I'm gonna run for it. And then 2 months later, a seat in the Iowa legislature opened. And I was like, oh no, here we go! And so I clung to my courage and I threw my name in because I knew 2016 was a time that required us and me to do more for the sake of our kids and grandkids and all of the rest of generations to come. And so I did. I served in the Iowa legislature, and my first day in the Iowa legislature, as a brand new state representative, I am getting taken around the rotunda, which is outside the chambers, where who stands? The lobbyists. And I met the big lobbyist for this big corporation and that big corporation. And I met the lobbyist for the big pharmaceutical companies and the big insurance companies. And I started looking around and thinking to myself, where are the lobbyists for everyday working families here in Iowa? Where are the lobbyists for those who are pushed aside and on the margins of society? Where are the lobbyists for those who are making impossible choices with their economic realities? The mom who's having to make the impossible choice, do I pay my utility bill or do I buy my child a winter coat? The family saying, do we put food on the table for our kids or do we pay our mortgage and keep our home? These are the kinds of impossible choices that everyday working families here in Iowa are facing right now. And I turned around and looked around me and said, where are the advocates for those folks? I knew in that moment, that first day at the Iowa legislature, that every single opportunity I had to take a microphone in my hand, I would tell their stories. Because the people who are advocating for the policies in Des Moines and in DC are special interests and big-time lobbyists who are not thinking for a second about everyday working families in our state, and I knew I would tell their stories. And so one of my first speeches on the floor of the Iowa legislature was about a neighbor of mine who lost services when Medicaid was privatized. You remember That was back in 2019. And when that happened, he really lost vital services. And so I shared that story of his on the floor of the House, and I called out the company who was refusing those services to him. And when I finished the speech, I got a note into the Iowa legislature, a little slip of yellow paper that requested to talk with me. That's how folks in the lobby communicate back and forth with legislators. And I see who the name is on this slip of paper. And I thought to myself, oh, this is gonna be interesting. I walk outside. It is the lobbyist who represented the company that I just named on the floor of the Iowa House. And he was red in the face. And I said to him, I said, what can I help you with? And he said, Representative, I know that you're new. I know that you're new, but we don't just do that in that Iowa House. We don't just call out a company in the Iowa House. And my response, I don't care what the norms of the Iowa legislature are. I care that my neighbor gets the health care that he needs and deserves. It is time, when we're seeing policies coming from Washington, D.C. that are going to strip health care from 27,000 Iowans just here in Iowa's 2nd Congressional District. It is time for us to stand up and say no. So I had a similar moment that I had in 2016 this past summer, when I'm looking at all of the policies coming down from DC, and I began to wonder, is this another moment that would require me to do more? And as I wrestled with that question, it became abundantly clear to me and my family that the answer to that question was yes. So I am running for U.S. Congress in Iowa's 2nd Congressional District because everyday working families need a voice in places of power. And so I am going to go and fight every single day like I have in the Iowa legislature in the Capitol. And let me tell you this, when my family and I decided it is time to jump in and we talked to our communities and our friends, we decided that we would buy a different Lego this time. So we have purchased a Lego of the nation's capital. And we have learned something from 2016 to 2026 in the last 10 years, is that we are not going to build the Lego on the day after we flip this seat. We are going to start building that Lego now, with every single one of you, because this moment requires not just me to do more, it requires all of us to do more. And so you will get an invitation if you sign up with my campaign to come to our office opening, our very first office opening when we open one up, where you will get an invitation to grab hold of a Lego, and we're gonna start building a new nation's capital together. And we're gonna fight for a new way forward together. So thank you for considering me for U.S. Congress, and I am so excited to tell you about one of my colleagues that I have also had the privilege of working with. I was in Iowa House leadership when I heard the name Josh Turek, and he was considering running for office, and he was such an impressive human. And we were so excited about him, but the district was really, really hard. And there is a thing in campaigns where, the consultants and the campaign workers who do this for a living, they say, oh, don't get too attached. Because when you get attached to someone, they may or may not win. And this is a hard seat. Well, it was hard not to be attached to such a fabulous human and to be cheering him on. And he did what we thought was impossible. He flipped that seat in one of the toughest cycles. And not only did he flip that seat, the next cycle, he held that seat in one of the toughest districts in our state. And so I have had the privilege of working alongside of him at the Iowa legislature to see firsthand his commitment, his care, and his leadership. And so I'm very excited to announce to you, Josh Turek.
All right, hello Mason City. This is a heck of a turnout. I'm Iowa State Representative Josh Turek. I'm running to be your next United States Senator. I am the first permanently disabled member of the Iowa legislature, something I'm really proud of, to be able to give a voice and representation to the 1 in 5 Iowans with a disability finally. And something I'm even more proud of than that is that I am the Democrat that represents the reddest district that was won on election day. Trump won the 2 communities that I represent. He won Carter Lake by 18 points. He won my hometown of Council Bluffs by 10 points. And I was able to win my district by nearly 6 points.
Amen.
Yeah. And what that has taught me is the right candidate with the right message and the right work ethic, we can win. And in 2026 is when the pendulum is going to swing, and we are going to make Iowa blue again. We are going to win these races.
Amen.
I'm born and raised in a working class community of Council Bluffs, Iowa, to a working class family. We're a family that we struggled economically. We went to the Goodwill for our clothes. We shared clothes. We went to the free summer lunch programs to be able to eat in the summer. And so in a deeply personal way, I understand what so many Iowans are going through right now, just struggling to keep food on the table and a roof above their head. Also, I was born with my disability. I was born with a condition called spina bifida. This was due to my father's exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. I had my first surgery at 1 day old. I had 21 surgeries before I was even 12. So in a deeply personal way, I understand the importance of affordable and accessible healthcare, and I fundamentally believe that healthcare is a human right, and that's what we should be fighting for. From very humble beginnings, I've been able to achieve some great things. I had a very successful wheelchair basketball career. Because of wheelchair basketball, I was able to go to college, scored over 4,000 career points, and just barely beat out Caitlin Clark, something I'm very proud of. The highlight of my basketball career, though, I've been able to represent the United States in 4 Paralympic Games, and I won back-to-back gold medals in wheelchair basketball, something I'm quite proud of. And beyond that, I've been a director of a nonprofit organization for disabled kids for more than 10 years. The way that I found myself into the legislature is I was working in healthcare. I was assessing and providing power wheelchairs, actually, for individuals with progressive conditions like muscular dystrophy and Lou Gehrig's disease. And much like Lindsay was talking about the privatization of Medicaid, this is what inspired me to run, is because what we were showing was, since Iowa had privatized its Medicaid, a 1,000% increase in the denial rate. I thought this was fundamentally wrong and unjust. Then had found out that Iowa had never had a permanently disabled member of the Iowa legislature. So I decided to do something about it. I decided to run. As Lindsay said, it's a very, very red district. They said, Josh, you can't win out here as a Democrat. I said, I'm going to attack this the same way that I've overcome all the other adversity in my life, the same way I've won gold medals. I'm going to outwork my opponent. And what that meant for me, it's called Council Bluffs for a reason, was that meant going out every single day, rain or shine, hot or cold, and dragging my wheelchair upstairs to have conversations with Republicans and independents. The match just didn't work any other way. Won my first election by just 6 votes. Never doubt that every single one of your votes makes a big difference. It's the only one to win a competitive election in all of Western Iowa, 13-point overperformance. But what I'm more proud of than that 6-vote margin, again, is we took that 6-vote margin, and even though the Republicans spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and Americans for Prosperity spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, we took that 6-vote margin and we moved it into a 6% margin. Again, what that has taught me is the right candidate with the right message, and without a doubt, that message is prairie populism or economic populism. And the right work ethic, we can win. 2026 is when we're going to win. I get asked all the time, Josh, why do you want to run for the U.S. Senate? Everything that I've accomplished in my life that I've just told you is due to a great senator from Iowa. I am only here because of the work of Tom Harkin and the work that he did on the American with Disabilities Act, my political hero. Senator Harkin's work on the ADA provided myself and so many other disabled Americans an on-ramp onto society. And I believe that we here in Iowa, that's certainly worth clapping for that one. I'm deeply indebted to Senator Harkin. And I believe that we here in Iowa, we deserve to once again have a senator that is going to be fighting for Iowa and Iowans, and fighting for social and economic justice, and fighting for social safety nets like Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, and not just looking out for billionaires and large corporations. This is why I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I think it's important that you guys know what kind of policies I'm going to fight for if I'm able to get to the U.S. Senate. The very first bill that I'm going to sponsor is going to be a dignity in work bill. This is going to be to raise the minimum wage. We can all recognize $7.25 is not a livable wage. This is going to be to do away with 14C certificates, which allow a for-profit business to pay someone just due to a disability a sub-minimum wage. and provide collective bargaining rights back to every single one of our workers. That's the first bill I'm sponsoring you with. Other things that I'm deeply passionate about is affordable housing. You cannot have the American dream without affordable housing. Affordable and accessible healthcare. As I said, I am someone that believes that healthcare is a human right. If I'm able to get to the United States Senate, I will be fighting for a public option so that every single American has access to quality, affordable healthcare. And with healthcare, that also means women's healthcare, and that means women's reproductive freedom. And my pledge to you, if I'm able to get to the United States Senate, is I will do all that I can to make sure that we codify Roe v. Wade, so not just every Iowan, but every American woman has access to reproductive freedom. I also feel very passionately about pharmaceuticals. Sadly, one of the things that I've heard the most when I'm out in my district knocking doors is people say, I've changed my job, I've changed insurance, I can no longer afford to take my medication. As Lindsay just said, talking about impossible choices, no one in the richest country on earth should have to make that impossible choice of this month, do I take my pills or do I pay my bills? It is wrong. From negotiated drug costs to capping things like insulin, every Iowan, but every American deserves access to affordable pharmaceuticals. And certainly some Iowa-specific issues. I care very deeply about supporting our public schools. Public money belongs in public schools. Yes. Doing something about our cancer crisis. This is certainly something that has affected my life personally. Sadly, my sister is actually going to go under the knife tomorrow for breast cancer, so please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. And doing something about what is causing the cancer crisis in this state, which is our water quality crisis, and doing something to address that. And beyond that, we've got to address the corruption that we're seeing in this country. Citizens United was without a doubt the worst decision in the United States Supreme Court history. We have got to get the dark money out of politics. And this is what I promise you, from supporting term limits to banning stock trading to individuals, to making sure we have transparency in the system, and ultimately overturning Citizens United. We have to take our country back, because we can have oligarchy or we can have democracy, but we cannot have both. We need to clean up the corruption. We need to once again be a country that is of the people, for the people, by the people, not just looking out for billionaires and large corporations. What I also want to say is that, we've got a lot of individuals up in DC, and they come from wealth, they come from privilege, they come from Ivy League backgrounds. What we don't have enough of is we don't have enough individuals from places like Mason City, from places like Council Bluffs, of real lived economic struggle, of real lived healthcare struggle. Because when you have had that struggle in your life firsthand, you will have a different level of empathy. You will have a different level of fight. What we need in DC, what we need in the United States Senate are fighters. And we need fighters for the people, fighters for Iowa and Iowans, and fighters for the middle class. And speaking of fighters of the middle class, I want to introduce somebody. Nathan Sage, why don't you come on up?
Appreciate it, Josh. This is probably the hardest speech I'm going to give. First of all, thank you. Thank you all for believing in me, trusting in me, understanding that I am, like Josh said, a working class dude that was just struggling to make it in this role. I want to point out people that mean a lot to me before I get to why these two are going to be our next winners. I want to point out Nash Lindsley back there. He's my deputy financial director, but he's been with me the longest. He's also fought with me more than my sister. He means the world to me. He's like a brother to me. He jumped on this race back in, March? And he's been with me ever since. He put his trust and his faith in me. Carter, stand up. Carter's a Mason City kid. Carter grew up here, till you were like 8, right? Yeah. Carter saw my video online, graduated college, and wanted to be a part of this train. Wanted to be a part of this. Understood that we need real people, real fighters, people that know the struggle to represent us. That's why he's here. He's been with us. He's my wife's favorite. But he is a comedian. He also gave me the coolest birthday present I've gotten, a little dancer that I've wanted so long, for a long time. Anyways, Laura, you gotta stand up too. Laura's my current campaign manager. I guess that's over with, right? So you're just hanging out with me. Laura jumped on. Laura is for a lack of a better term, a loudmouth like me. But I connected with her really well. She's been pointing this ship in the right direction for the last basically month, and I couldn't be here without her, so I wanted to say I appreciate you too. My sister Carrie is over here. She's gonna cry. If anybody wants to know, she's the one that beat the shit out of me growing up. Blame her for why I am the fighter I am. I'm also gonna point out my friends, Justin, Alyssa, Tess, her husband, Scott. I almost messed up the name last time, Scott. And there is my wife right back there, Amanda. Amanda is the one that decided to tell me back in January that, Nathan, you have an opportunity to stand up and you have an opportunity to fight for people. To fight for people that are just like you, that are struggling every day to make it, that had a worse childhood than what we had. And so when I jumped into this race, I was here because, you guys have seen it, we keep getting the same politicians. We keep getting the same people. We have the fake, slick back hair, the talking points, the soft-handed doctor's kids. We keep getting the same thing. And what happens? We keep losing. And we can't lose anymore. And so I knew when I decided to do this, I had to bring my true feelings, my passion, my anger, my weird sense of humor. And I knew at the time that's what people needed. And I went around and did a 99 county tour, and I know that I have a lot of people here supporting me, no more than the North Iowa Fight Back girls right here. So Laura right here who bawled her eyes out was the first person to contact me after we launched and wanted me up here in Mason City. That Saturday I came up here and we lit a fire in people. I've been lighting a fire in people for a long time. Saying goodbye is probably the hardest thing. It is not goodbye. It's actually what I said in my video, it's see you later. But here's the deal. People like me, we don't have money. I've been trying to fight and find money my whole life. That's what it seems like. It seems like a rat race. So many of us do that over and over and over. And it takes money to get there. And we've been trying to do everything we can to raise money, trying everything we can to appeal to people, to give us money to donate. It is insanely hard. And you have two other good candidates. You have Josh and you have Zach. It's hard. It's insanely hard. And for the past 3 weeks, month, we have really been a teary-eyed mess. They know it. Because we know how many people are counting on someone to fight for them. Counting on someone to stand up for them. Counting on somebody in Washington, D.C. to not bend the knee, but stand up and say, fuck this, we're not doing it anymore. And yes, if you've never seen me, I do cuss. But here's the deal. I've met Lindsay, I've met Josh. I've been around all these different candidates across this. I've never been involved in this, so I was kind of coming into it like a fresh little kid in kindergarten. And what I've realized is there are some very, very good people out there. There are some very good people that really want to represent people, really understand what we're going through, really understand that this world is not made for people. That we need someone to fight for us so we can actually get somewhere. Lindsay reminds me of, it's funny because I know my elementary principal is right there, Miss Sweetman. But Lindsay reminds me of a mom and a kindergarten teacher. Because why? She knows how to talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, at their level. She talks to you like a human being. She wants to really know who you are, what you're doing, because she wants to know the people that she's going to be representing. That's what she cares about, is knowing that people that she's representing are taken care of, that she's serving for them. And to me, hats off to you, Lindsay. Like, you are a good person. I truly believe you are a person. And I truly believe you are the type of person we need to get to Washington so you can walk across the aisle and have conversations with Republicans like their kids too. You got to be able to have those conversations with people that just seem to not get it sometimes, right? So I beg everybody in here, when you're looking at the Congressional District 2, as I pull that off, Lindsay James is your winner. She is the person we need to get there, and I will do everything I can in my power to get my supporters and people to understand that she is the person for that district. There's no other choice. She is it. Now, last but not least, Josh Turek. I feel like I should sit down for you, Josh, since you get to sit all the time. Just there, right? Josh, endorsing Josh has been a path. I've met with Zach, I've met with Josh, I've met with everybody. What people don't know, and I'm going to throw it out here for you. I met with him before I ran. Josh didn't know what he was going to do. Didn't know. Zach didn't tell me, he decided to kind of hide that from me. My interactions with people, what they don't understand is I read people very, very well. I'm very good at understanding when people are actually sincere, when they're fake, when they are lying to me, and when they don't give a shit. I'll just be blunt honest with you. Zach Walz does not give a shit. He is a artificial, fake politician that wants the next notch on his belt to be able to follow his career path of being in Washington. He cares about that. I'm not gonna beat around the bush about that. Josh Turek, on the other hand, was a human being to me. When he knew that we were having problems, I told him I wanted to meet with him. He told me, "You've never been to the state capitol?" I was like, "No, I've never been to the state capitol." He's like, "Well, I'll give you a tour." He gave me a tour. He said, "I've never been to the top of the Capitol." I didn't even know you could get to the top of the Capitol. He said, "I've never been there." He's like, "If you want to go, we'll go." And I said, "Do you want me to carry you?" And he goes, "No, man, I got it." And we go to the Capitol, and what does he do? He shows me it was the coolest tour. We had other people with us too. Like, we had this whole group of people that was like, "Oh my God." He's just like, "Oh, by the way, you have two U.S. Senate candidates that are giving you a tour." So it was interesting. But then we started walking, and "You want to go up? We'll go up." He didn't blink an eye. He took his wheelchair, put it to the side, and he climbed on his hands. Spiral staircases. I don't even know how far that is. Insane amount. And I knew right then that this guy has heart. He has fight. He's not scared to get down on your level and get there. And we got to the state capitol, and what people don't know is we talked for 2 hours. It was a long time. Because I knew that there's things about Josh that I didn't really like. There's things about his vote record. There's things out there that I just was not happy with. And I wanted to hear from the horse's mouth. I did the same thing. I didn't do the same thing with Zach. I didn't climb up the state capitol. But I met with Zach as well. Met at a bar. When Josh met me, it was me and him, and he were in like a tracksuit. It was just us. Zach had a staff there. Zach will look at you, look past you. Doesn't look in you in the eyes. It's the same Zach that I met back in January. Did not shock me, did not surprise me. It's what I came to expect. The only thing that bothered me is he couldn't even give the respect to give me a real answer of why he's running for Senate. It was just this, what I wanted to hear bullshit. That man right there told me he understands the struggle. He struggled in his life to get to where he is. Most of us in this room have struggled. And I truly believe the only way you can ever get anywhere, the only way we're going to ever get this country back to where it needs to be, is people need to know what that is like. What it's like when you don't have food on your table. What it's like when you can't put gas in your car. When you're standing at the register and you're hoping that it says accepted. That's the world for a lot of people in this room, a lot of people in the state, and a lot of people in the country, and Josh Turek gets it. And having that conversation with Josh, I understood really quick. He might not always make the best decisions, but he is willing to represent people and fight for people. He understands that there's people in the state that don't have proper representation. He understands that there's people in the state that are just wanting someone to fight for them. He's been fighting his whole life just like I have been fighting. And so when it came to endorsing Josh, it was like, hell yes. Josh Turek gets it. And I have one gift that I know of, and you guys have met. I can speak pretty well, and I can rile up a group. And I will do everything I can to make sure that this man is our next senator, because I want a real person there. I want someone that's willing to fight for us. I want someone that's not going to bend the knee. I want someone that is actually going to properly represent Iowans, and that is Josh Turek. I will tell you that I'm not going anywhere. I am going to keep being a loudmouth, hairy, fat guy that says it how it is. It's all I know how to do. I blame my sister for that one. I will continue to fight every single day to give voices to people that don't have a voice. I will continue to fight to represent people. I will continue to keep him and her at toe, understanding, hey, this is what we're hearing, this is what we need. You need to get out there and represent us. You need to get out there and fight this. I feel like I have the opportunity to be a microphone in their ears all the time, letting them know we are not going to stand for this anymore. I have an ability to be able to hold them accountable. And I feel fully in my chest and my heart that this is the right way to go. Because at the end of the day, more than anything in this world, we can't lose anymore. We've been losing for 10 years. We can't lose. And I truly believe we can win with Josh Turek and Lindsay James. The last thing I will say is I love everybody here. You'll see me around. I come up to Mason City, I'll be checking in with these ladies. I'll be checking with my friends. You'll not hear me go away. I will definitely be that loudmouth, like I said. But what we need to do is we all need to come together. To end what was going on with the chaos in this country, we all need to come together. We all need to rally around one candidate and one candidate only. We need to win this seat. We need to take back Washington, and we need to get this chaos and this shit over with. That's the last thing I'll say. One last thing is these two will be hanging around. You can come up and meet them, say hi to them. I'll be around here as well. Please do. Learn more about them. We'll be here for a while. But other than that, peace out.